What's up, guys? This is Andrew Smersek with Combat Art Training. I'm here today with Garry Marr of Tremis Dynamics. What we are going to be talking about is that it is okay to not look at your holster when you're reholstering, and also that sometimes you can't look at it and that sometimes it wouldn't be ideal to look at. You can look at it, right?
You can.
You can look at it. We're not saying that it's absolutely wrong to. Sometimes it is wrong to, but we're not like completely against it. Your classes, that was one of the things you said. Like, how do you describe reholstering in your classes?
So when we discussed the philosophy of it, I'm like, hey, if you can put it in a holster, do that. If you need to steal a glance at it, do that.
Yeah. So like, you got the gun, take a peek, maybe I take another peek. It's okay.
Yep. And I'm okay with that either way. I think that's pretty simple. If you don't need to, why are you doing it? If you need to, then you should probably do that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's basically a critical skill that you do need to be able to put your gun in the holster without looking at it. You know, for instance, we can look at the Secret Service officer after Trump got shot, and she is trying to feel for it, can't get the gun put away, but she's really trying to keep her head up because she's determined that she wants to put her pistol away, but she doesn't want to lose what she is looking at.
Yep.
Another scenario that could be like that, I've drawn my gun 3 times in public. No one has ever seen it. Okay, I just wanted to have my gun in my hand so that it was ready, because I determined in that situation, hey, things are getting weird. I need to be ready as soon as possible. That's faster than a fast draw stroke, most of the time at least.
Yeah, it's already in my hand. How about that?
And I put it away without anyone seeing it. All right. So now, when are some times when you can't look at your holster?
Well, there's the dark.
Yep. It happens to be dark outside right now.
Right now. And I'm not firing up one of these studio lights outside to put my gun away.
Right.
When you kick a light on, that's the equivalent of an ND. Like it is a light ND. Even if you meant to do it, if you don't need the light on to identify a threat, that's negligence. So if you just got to put the gun away and you shine a flashlight on it, I consider that an ND.
Yeah, and now people will say, well, if it's not bright enough for you to see, to be able to shoot or whatever, then you shouldn't be shooting. Well, you might have had a light on. I have a handheld light, so I might be shining that shooting. I don't want to have to shine that to put my gun away. That is actually a thing I see people do on the range, is they keep the light on and they look at their holster. The darkness can be your concealment, so you might want to use that. You might even want to go into the darkest place possible, like shadows, where people cannot see you, to put it away. So to be able to see the holster in the first place, we need adequate lighting.
Yep.
We also need working eyeballs. So, for instance, if you have just been getting your face beaten in, like you're in a hand-to-hand fight, you manage to get your gun out and shoot that guy, you might not be able to open your eyes at the end of that.
Yep. You might have a lot of things happening in the face area. Debris or fucking, impacts.
Yep.
You're like, man, I can't see shit. And I'd like to now start applying some medical to myself, but I got this thing in my hand. I got to put it somewhere.
Yeah. I use cover, right? I can look at my holster because I use cover. Well, cover is a thing that's going to put shrapnel in your face if the bullets hit it. So getting flak in your eye. I actually met a guy who was in Vietnam, and at the beginning of one of the fights, round hit bamboo went straight into his eyeball. Luckily, he had his other eye he could work with, but that could be the reality of it. And that might completely put you out of the fight, where you're not supposed to be the guy shooting anymore, and then hopefully you have a friend who can do it. But you shouldn't have this be your first time putting the gun away without looking at your holster. What about blind people? You think they should be able to carry guns?
I don't see. You get into the, what do you call blind?
Like
legally blind versus
completely doesn't work.
I
We'll
can't
just go
see
that far.
anything at all. I believe it's everybody's right to defend themselves how they see best. If there's no victim, there's no crime. So if you're not hurting somebody, how can I tell you what you're doing is wrong?
Yeah. And the thing I think about that is, like, if there's a woman who completely has zero vision, I don't want to be the one to tell her, well, you can't carry a gun because that's dangerous. She doesn't need to be able to see the person raping her.
Right. She knows that that person is right here doing this right now.
So even that, all right, and that's an outlier, of course, but that matters. Now,
well, hell, I spent years carrying it like 4 o'clock. Like I can only turn so much, like, and see everything, back behind the point of my hip.
right?
So maybe I'm carrying it in a spot where I don't ever see the holster.
Or
I have students who are even more overweight than I am, and
right.
all that stuff is in the way for them to get a view. Or maybe it's a well-endowed female who's like, I can't see the appendix holster in front of me.
Yeah, well, actually, I've had a lot of female students with boobs that are too big to see the holster.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to have to tell her she has to put the holster somewhere that isn't good for her.
Exactly.
Now, so yeah, we need adequate lighting. We need working eyeballs, and then nothing blocking us from seeing. The other thing, nighttime, night vision. Now you're trying to use two little tubes or one little tube to be able to point down at the holster.
That has a very fixed focal distance. Like it changes when you change it, but it doesn't auto-focus like your eyeballs do.
Yep.
So
and now wearing even a war belt with a safari lens sticking out, I can't point that thing at the holster. Now there's other techniques, and the thing I've noticed too is even when an instructor says it, to look at your holster, if you watch them, eventually they don't look at their holster. I understand why they do. They don't want you pointing the gun at yourself or having stuff in the holster, all that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But it's like I even see that, yeah, they say to do it, but eventually if you watch them, they're not going to do it themselves.
Right. They're busy giving a block of instruction, answering a student question. They had a blue gun or whatever, a red gun, a sim gun,
or
live
real gun. Yep.
And they go, I answered the question, they put it away, and they keep talking about what they were doing. When this video is over, if you take 15 seconds, you'll find an instructor do that on the internet.
Yep.
Because that's how long it took me to find one.
Yeah. Now what are some times, that's like when you can't even look at it. The other thing to think about too is like, if I'm just carrying an appendix and I have a rifle in the way, that can block me from seeing it. If I throw on chest rig, armor, all that stuff, that's definitely going to block me from seeing it. If it's on this side, well, you can put a lot of sustainment pouches and stuff, and all that gets in the way too. So those are just times where you can't look at it, and that's basically light is not going to work. Your eyes aren't working, or there's just something in the way. Now, when are some times when it doesn't make sense to look at the holster? We already talked about the Secret Service agent. Few ones I'll say is like, again, if you take your gun out and you want to put it away discreetly without looking, so you're not drawing attention, then you wouldn't want to look at it. You can even like use a hat or something to kind of get it done where they can't see it getting put away. Other times, one of the ones I thought about is on a one-handed reload or malfunction clearing or something like that, where I'm still in the fight, but I need to get my gun working, and I'm going to use the holster as a place to put my gun while I fix it.
Yep.
And I can do that. If I put my gun back in the holster, I can stay moving. I can keep my head up. Lots of different things.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some other times that you see where it doesn't make sense to?
I've seen it in Force on Force, where there are multiple people doing multiple things. Like, hey, we've got a simulated injured person. I'm going to take 2 hands to move them because I can't move them with one hand. There might still be bad guys. The guy got injured somehow. I don't want to bury my head in my holster and then pick up my friend and drag him away. I want to see, where am I dragging the guy to? Well, I just put the gun away, grab Billy, and we'll drag him to a place of safety while I'm looking for, hey, there's a bad guy there. The cover's over there. Like, I need to look where I'm going, and I'm not fucking around looking at this while that changes.
Yeah, and they say a lot of times that, if it's safe enough to put the gun away, it's safe enough to look at your holster. It could be. It could be.
It very well could be. Yeah.
But we can't say that for sure. The first guy I ever saw who was shot, I thought he was dead, and he got right back up and surprised all of us. It was on a ride-along in Minneapolis, and he was laying there, looked dead to me, and he got up and was like, oh, fuck, I've been shot. I got to get out of here. Started running away. That's a thing that happens in fights too. Like, unless it's like that dude's brain has been completely destroyed, you can't really call that for certain.
Some of those guys might want to put cuffs on someone.
Yep. That's another one.
And like, oh, I'm going to put this away so I can use my hands to do this other task. And I don't want to take my eyes off the guy that I'm about to handcuff.
And if you watch lots of...
I ain't handcuffing anyone.
No.
I don't own handcuffs. Well, not like metal ones.
Well, and another thing with that too is the thing that I've seen talked about a lot with low light stuff. People say that the neck index with a flashlight was meant so that you could look at your holster to put away, and if they got close, you could smack them with that. I've seen that said. Okay, and we're not getting into techniques with a flashlight right now, but this can be okay too. But yeah, so it may be that you want to put handcuffs on someone. Maybe that, for a cop, they might be switching to a taser. They might be going hands-on. Lots of different
I don't need
reasons.
lethal force, but I still need force. Okay.
And even some guys carry 2 guns, right? So you might have this gun stop working. You go to this gun, and now the fight is still on, so I need to put this gun away because it's not working, but I don't want to give it up, whatever reason. But lots of different things. Anything else on that, man?
Well, here's the part that gets me. When people say you have to look your gun into the holster, when they actually follow through with that, which isn't all the time themselves. I don't like hypocrisy. It's a very ugly thing, so don't say always do something and then sometimes don't. But the thing that gets me, their argument is, well, it's for the safety of the student because there could potentially be an ND putting the gun away, and we need to look to help mitigate that. But if we have an intellectually honest instructor, he is going to tell you, his statistics will bear out that the more students shoot themselves on the draw than they do on the reholster, and nobody suggests we look at the holster to draw the gun out. But that's statistically the more dangerous time to, go from a stationary gun to a moving gun. Like is the getting it to the moving instead of getting it to the stationary, or whatever terminology we want to use.
Right.
Putting it away is less often do we get an ND than drawing it.
Right.
Why don't they address the real problem or the bigger problem? No, they go right to this other one.
So this is like talking about the root of the cause. Now, and hey, if your instructor in your class tells you to look at your holster, do what your instructor says. You're in class to learn from them. Okay, we're just addressing this issue, and we're not saying don't train with any specific person. In fact, we both train with a lot of dudes who say to look at your holster, and that's okay, and we're still going to keep training with them because we get other good knowledge from them. Now, so the root cause of the problem. All right, so it's probably not an ND happening on the way in. It's an ND happening on the way out. That's one thing. For myself, I don't allow Serpa holsters in my classes. That's like no, we're not doing that.
Same here.
In Serpa holsters where you are pressing down on a button as you bring the gun out of the holster, that puts your finger applying pressure to near where that bang hole is. That causes it a lot. Nylon holsters, garbage holsters, that can be a thing. A holster with a strap that works its way inside of the trigger as you put the gun in the holster, that's a problem waiting to happen. So, good holster needs to be a thing. The other thing is good gun. When I reached out to other instructors and asked them to, hey, when have you seen NDs or accidental discharges or negligent, either one, while reholstering, I said, what was it that caused it? Now, if you look for videos, there's one video I can remember a while back that was a cord coming off a jacket with a cord lock on it that a cop had caught in there. I can't even find that video now. But the other videos I found where dude is actually looking at his holster, putting the gun in, and it just goes off. And another one, dude is just puts the gun in while looking at it, covers up, walks away, and it goes off. So that would be more of a gun issue. Now, when I dug into this, what I was getting told from instructors is that certain triggers that they had put in their guns were the issue. So guys trying to modify their gun to be easier to shoot was causing them to discharge.
Yep.
Now, and I think you were talking about earlier, different triggers that will like go off if you drop the gun or stuff like that.
Go full auto for no reason. I've seen that a lot. I generally speaking, like on a pistol, the gun one that comes with it won't do that. That's usually the case. And when it comes to aftermarket, my general rule of thumb is avoid it. And I only have one company who I believe won't make an unsafe trigger aftermarket.
Who is that?
Apex.
Apex. Okay. Yeah, and Lewis uses Apex. Everything I've seen from them is good. I haven't really messed with it. The only aftermarket trigger I've ever bought for a pistol was the Glock Performance one, because I was like, that's still OEM, you know? And
Yeah,
not
Glock
to say...
makes it, I have faith in it.
Yeah, it should be good. But here's the thing. It was only like 5, maybe 10% better. It's a little bit better, but it's not like it's going to fix your problems, you know?
Yep.
But okay, Apex, that's cool. Now, but yeah, that's a thing I've seen where guys try to put in different connectors and stuff like that and
Polish
change
things.
parts. Yeah, on the inside of the gun. And then I've seen it where a gun doesn't reset. You can get a gun dirty enough where if you're gripping it tight, that trigger doesn't reset. That's a thing I've seen. But that's with a factory gun. I haven't seen a factory gun that just goes off when it goes in the holster. Now, of course, people will talk about SIGs. There have been issues with that. Now, my thing with that is like, I don't hate SIG as a brand. You know, like
Right.
you have.
I carry one
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, you have great success with them. The ones I've had in class have been great. I haven't had issues. But I would say that if like, hey, there's a problem with this gun, we'll identify which ones out of that, you know, like look at the serial numbers or whatever you have to do and, you know, manage that risk. I haven't had a problem with Glock. That's what I carry, whatever. And I don't care about the debate. That's not why we're here. We're trying to find the actual root cause of the problem. But so fucking up your gun by modifying it, trying to make it easier to shoot because you're trying to patch your gun instead of being good at shooting, instead of taking training classes and practicing the things you learned.
Yep.
Are the best shooters in your classes the ones with the most Gucci triggers?
Nope.
All right.
It's factory guns with whatever sights they like. Mm-hmm. Whether that be a red dot of their choosing or whatever irons. And then like, I don't fuck with nothing else. Like, yeah, I'll kind of digging that.
And they just hone their skill. They practice the things they learn often.
Some of my best students, I could draw my gun and hand it to them, and they'll outshoot the other students. Like, hey, look, that isn't his gun. You can swap all the guns around, and the good shooters will still shoot well.
Mm-hmm. Now, so then people are going to say, okay, so like we're looking at if you don't modify the gun and have a good holster. The other problem is people having their finger on the trigger. Majority of the time that I've seen it, like in videos, because I haven't had a student do it in class, but, you know, yet, you know, because I'm sure, you know, it happens all over the place, so I'm not trying to fucking throw shade, but when I've seen it in videos, that's another thing is guys are trying to get in the holster. They have never done this before. They never, you know, put the holster away, the pistol away under stress. Or there's another video that I saw of a big fat dude trying to get in a shitty nylon holster, and he's got his finger on the trigger as he puts it in, and he cranks one off. That's a violation of
that's
the fire
how
and safety
guns
rules.
fire, when you put your finger on them. Like, I don't care if you're reholstering, drawing the gun, shooting it at a target, it fires when you put your finger in there and press it. Mm-hmm. So where the holster is, looking at the holster, what type of holster it is, none of those matter if you put your finger in there and press it.
Yep. And then, so then the final thing people will say was, well, you can check for obstructions. Now, yeah, you can. And that may be the right thing to do. In fact, you may have like rolled around in a bunch of stuff and it's like, dude, I am not putting this in there until I've looked at it. That may be the totally right decision.
Yep, let's do that. And then that's the case. Hey, look, there's an empty shotgun shell from the range in there.
Now, on the other side of that, thinking about how I'm not wearing a bunch of cool guy gear. I just have a gun in an inner waistband holster right here. There's no extra straps or anything on that. It's a Kydex holster. It's a quality Kydex holster. Unless something got dumped into here, there's probably nothing going to get in there. I don't have cords coming off my shirt and whatnot. Now, I had talked to Garry and I said, hey man, here's what I want you to do. Take an unloaded gun and put stuff in your holster and try to make it so that it presses the trigger. What did you find?
Of all the things I tried that weren't ridiculously silly, like I did put a chopstick through a trigger guard and then reholster the gun to get it to go click. Mm-hmm.
Which, okay, don't do that.
From natural occurring things that I could dump in that, The only thing I found that worked that I could get to do like once, and got it to do it 5% of the time that I tried it. I'll say 5%. So still a low number. Were the toggles from a jacket. Because the toggle is the right size to fit between the trigger and the front of the trigger guard. That's one of the keys, has to fit in there. And it has to be fixed outside of the holster so that when you put it in, the retention of the other end being fixed is what presses the trigger.
So it's like through the trigger and pinned on each side of the holster as you push it down.
And now getting it in there was more difficult because I had to dangle it into the holster just far enough that it would catch in the trigger guard on the reholster. If it was too far in or too far up, it would just get pushed all the way down or pushed out of the way. So I could find a spot to hold that, but finding something that is attached to you outside the holster and is the right size to fit between the front of a trigger guard and the front of the face of the trigger, there aren't a lot of things that meet those criteria. It just so happens that jacket toggles do, and they tend to mount them near a holster. Like they're usually on both sides. So if you're carrying a strong side, that pull on the inside of your jacket is also right where the gun is. So it's a perfect storm of events.
Yep, which can happen. Like a brass over bolt. It's like it's possible, but it's like you never see it, right?
Right. Enough reps, statistically, one will pop up somewhere.
Yep. Now, what about like brass or casings?
They'll fit inside. Some will fit inside that trigger guard, but without them being attached to something, they just go in the holster with the gun. And I was like, oh, well, when the holster, where it gets smaller, it'll push it. I couldn't make it happen. I couldn't make it happen in a small gun with big brass, like using like 45 ACP brass, thinking, oh, well, that will fill up so much space. This will do it. And I'll do that in a Ruger LCP. And I couldn't make it happen. Not once. So I'm not saying it can't. I'm saying I couldn't make it happen. And I tried it at a bunch of angles, a bunch of times, over and over again. And with different guns, different pieces of brass, I couldn't make it work.
Right. So it's like, yeah, there's always that possibility. We're not saying it's impossible, but statistically, super hard to make happen. If it's dark, you can't see it. If your eyes don't work, you can't see it. And if you want to maintain situational awareness, or there's still people shooting and you want to do something where you have to put that gun away, maybe like pick up the big rifle in the corner.
I'm not throwing it on the ground to pick up a rifle.
So, anyways, guys, so that's kind of the whole point of the video. Now, how to do it, I mean, I would say go to a class, but it's not that complicated. Like, after I draw my gun, I bring my gun back, I pull my shirt up, pause for a second, my hand's out of the way, my shirt's out of the way, and then I put my thumb in the holster. I actually do that also to feel that my holster is clear.
Yep.
And then I drag my gun straight up and slowly, reluctantly put it away. And once I feel that positive click in, then my hand comes off the gun. I do not shove it in, because if there was a problem, guys that take their hand off and press down real hard, that would make the problem really bad. Nice and smooth in. All right.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add, man?
No, I think we've pretty much covered it.
All right, cool. Yeah, this is meant to be educational. This isn't meant to be controversial. It's like, hey, let's look at the root problem, understand it. I know, like, I've got more reasons even, and maybe I'll type them in the comments or something as like, hey, this situation, this situation, this situation, all these you would not want to look at your holster. Again, you can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you do not want to. Sometimes you probably should.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Cool. All right. Hey, so check out Tremis Dynamics. Links in the description. Thank you for watching. Keep fighting communism. Kill all pedophiles. And remember that training saves lives.